Now, if it's one thing that I know, it's that Republicans hate censorship. Boy, they can't stand the SJW shutting down free speech on college campuses. And actually, look, that's something I actually also agree with. I don't think we should be shutting down anybody's speeches on college campuses. However, unlike at least half of all Republicans polled during a recent poll, I believe in all of the First Amendment, that everybody has a right to free speech. And also, everybody also has a right to the freedom of the press. Now, half of these Republicans apparently do not. And a recent poll from YouGov found that 45% of Republicans favor permitting the courts to shut down news media outlets for publishing stories that they say are biased or inaccurate. Now, I'm going to break that down in a minute here, but just 20% opposed the idea, and 35% said, well, I don't know. I mean, should they be able to shut down media? Should the courts be able to go and shut down a media enterprise that they think that someone believes is biased or inaccurate? So this is like the other side of the fake news thing. Now, look, I didn't like it when CNN or other media outlets were like, we need to go after fake news. We think that caused the loss of Hillary Clinton, all that fake news, and Russia, and Comey, and Bernie Bros, and all that other stuff that they blame the election loss on. And by the way, you notice how they're not talking about that part of fake news anymore, investigating and shutting it down. Well, now this is the right's reaction to that. And the right says, oh yeah, by the way, we think that it'd be great to go and shut down media outlets that we disagree with. Not good. Now, look, one of the problems, and one of the biggest problems, I think, in this, other than the constitutional part of it, is who decides what is biased or inaccurate. Does the state decide it? Donald Trump, the Republican Party, the establishment? Who decides that and then brings that to the court? Or who does the court designate to decide that, or do they decide that themselves? It's very strange, right? Now, look, you start putting the power to decide what is biased or what is inaccurate, you put that in the power of the courts, which are right now solidly conservative for at least the next generation. That's going to be problematic, and not just for the conservative side, but for the liberal, or not just for the liberal side, but the conservative side too. What happens when it flips? And then suddenly, if they're still around in like 100 years, a liberal court says, hey, you know what? Fox News, biased, inaccurate, get rid of it. Not good. Or whatever conservative news station is at that point, if we're even around. But anyway, look, again, this entire idea is also widely unconstitutional. Now, most of these people, to give them credit, they have no idea. Some of them do know and don't care. Now, how many don't actually know? Well, it's actually a large percentage of them, unsurprisingly, because they listen to conservative media. They're not getting their facts. 35% of Republicans surveyed say shutting down news outlets or biased, inaccurate reporting would not violate the First Amendment. They would be wrong. But that's ignorance. You could fix that with facts. Okay. Now, what you can't fix is that 10% of Republicans that think, actually don't care about the Constitution. I don't like CNN. I don't like MSNBC, or I don't like TYT, or I don't like, I don't like that Jeff guy's show. I want to shut them down because I think they're biased and inaccurate. Well, look, there's a difference here, right? So I think Fox News is biased and inaccurate, and I think I've got a lot of proof behind me, but I'm not railing to shut them down. I'm not like, the government, big government, through the courts should come and shut down Fox News. Those are words that you will never hear me honestly say, okay? It's not something that I advocate for. I don't like Breitbart. You think I want to shut down Breitbart? One America News? You think I want to shut down Sean Hannity's show? No. I actually enjoy him making an ass of himself day in, day out. That's fine. So, big difference here. And look, again, while I don't rail against shutting them down, I do rail against their inaccuracies and their biases. And look, everybody has a bias, of course. We have a bias here. I'm a progressive. I come into this from a progressive point of view. That's the whole point of the show, is to look at the news through a lens of progressive, from a progressive living in, you know, the middle part of the country. So, I mean, under that description, well, I'd be shut down because I'm biased, right, by the courts. But it wouldn't just be me, it would be people on the conservative side as well, because they also have a bias. And that, again, I'm explaining how that's perfectly fine to have a bias and to do your own opinion and to have your own opinion. But they would get shut down too. It would be totally against the First Amendment. Now, look, how much of a snowflake are you if you're triggered by something that you don't agree with? Again, I'm not triggered by it. I actually find different viewpoints absolutely fascinating and very, very interesting to go and learn about and to study how people are. Now, some people see other people's facts and or other people's opinions, and they go, nope, not interested at all. In fact, I want to shut you down. These 10% of people polled want to shut people down because of different opinions. Shutting down their free speech. Now, and look, in using bias as an example, have you guys seen Hannity? Again, he'd get shut down in a day. If that's not bias, I don't know what is. And again, he's allowed to pick a side. He's allowed to have an opinion. But look, my whole point is putting the courts in charge of shutting down media outlets for bias and inaccuracy, which unfortunately our media does do or does have, is not necessarily a solution. Look, a lot of the opinions of the hosts, I think, are actually based on the parent corporation's interests. Some outlets like Fox and MSNBC, we know that's the case. They've got directives that are handed down. Now, Fox was much more notorious because they would, Roger Ailes, especially when he was in charge, would hand out talking points to everybody, and he would micromanage everybody on the channel. Okay, you got your talking points for the day. Now you need to go and recite them. MSNBC, it was more like, hey man, we're not outsiders, we're part of the establishment, so just don't criticize the establishment too much, okay? Both sort of the same problem here. Now, if you want to stop that, you don't get the courts involved and do something that is wildly unconstitutional. No, what you do is that you break up the large corporations that own these news channels. You end that for-profit model, okay? You end this media consolidation. What you're going to do is you're going to break the media up and you're going to stop basing it on advertisers and money. Once you do that, you're actually going to start to get more unfiltered actual opinion as well as unfiltered straight news. Because it's no longer going to be about how many advertisers, how much access I can get to the politicians so I can throw softballs at them and all that stuff. No, it'll actually be based on, we're here to really report what's going on. And there's a definite role for that. I do opinion here, but I could definitely see why we need more just regular straight news. And we don't have that anymore. And it's because I think a lot, in big part, due to media consolidation, these big corporations, and money. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.